You're listening to the My Work, My Life show.
Brought to you by Edge Executive Search.
For more information, contact us on
www.edgexec.co.za now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to my Life, My Work. It's Stefan Ensign here from Edge. And today we're going to have quite a nice, interesting discussion. It's quite interesting for me. I'm going to introduce Julie Miller to you just now. Julie is also one of those people that made a complete career change, and we're going to share some of her experiences. Julie comes from more than 12 years in the banking environment. It's a very formal industry. Above other things, she holds an MBA from Wits Business School as well as a CFA Level 3. So very finance business background. Now, Julie made a complete change in her career over 2 years ago already, and took a bold step to move from an employee to an entrepreneur. She's currently the managing director of Julie Miller Investment Art Institute and runs a gallery from the Mall of Africa in Midrand. Good afternoon, Julie. Welcome here.
Thanks so much, Stefan.
So, Julie, maybe can you tell us about your personal journey from the financial industry and to actually owning a gallery? Sounds so short, but I think it's probably quite a long path.
Well, it's not that long. I had studied finance. I was working in the banking industry, but really on data warehousing and projects.
Yes.
And I had decided after I finished studying finance, which was 2 years before I decided to leave, that I wanted to make a change into a finance-focused area rather than projects and data. So the opportunity came along, and I decided, if not now, then when?
Okay.
And very quickly.
That's the big decision.
That's it. So fortunately for me, I had invested wisely for many years in my corporate life. So I had enough money to start a venture of my own. So when I first looked at art, I looked at it from a finance point of view, and I wanted to start an art fund in South Africa because there is no art fund in South Africa. But then having done the research, I realized that our market is not broad or deep enough. And in fact, the States, who is with China the largest art market in the world, they also have trouble with art funds. So I decided that wouldn't be a smart financial investment. And I decided then to open the gallery instead.
Okay, but this journey actually started while you were still working at Nedbank. It wasn't just
right.
You woke up one morning and said, now I'm resigning and this is what I'm going to do.
That's right. I've always had a great passion for art. It's just one of those things, art and music, that people who love art get it. You look at it and it just makes you happy. And I also had a great passion for young artists. I had started working with an organization, a wonderful organization named Artist Proof Studio. Mm-hmm. They train up young artists, mostly from previously disadvantaged backgrounds, and train them with a very strong art background and how to do printing. But most of those artists become artists working with multiple media. And in fact, some of our leading contemporary artists today have come down the line from Artist Proof Studio. So I started there being a patron, supporting some of those young artists who couldn't afford their fees. Artist Proof Studio approaches many individuals and companies to support these individuals, and that's really how I started in the art industry.
Okay, but where did you get your entrepreneurial zest from? Because that's a very big difference and a big step to take.
It is, and I honestly can't tell you. I think perhaps, my dad was a very hardworking man, and he believed that if you want something, you see it in your mind, and you make it happen. And I suppose that's really where it comes from.
Who would you say is your biggest role model?
My biggest role model, well, it would be my dad.
Okay.
It would be my dad from a from a hard work, be grateful for all the opportunities you've got and make the most of it, I would say it would have been my dad.
Yeah. Look, I mean, you said earlier as well. I mean, you prepared for this financially as well.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people actually don't, or they're not in that position.
Yes.
And that probably will result in you not being able to do it right now. But you can probably say, I need to prepare for over 2 years. Is that something that you planned?
Very true. No.
Okay.
No, I had originally planned to make a career change within the corporate environment. So things just worked out where I could actually move out of the corporate environment. And of course, my husband encouraged me greatly. He's had his own business for most of his life. And he said to me, you can do this. And once you've done it, it's going to be hard, but you're never going to look back.
Okay.
And he was right.
Yeah, I think that's very important. People need to realize you need a support structure
That's right.
behind you to do this as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So what is the Julie Miller Investment Art Institute?
It is an organization that is focused on two things, really. What we aim to do is to support the art industry, so to grow the art industry in South Africa, because I think we have so much scope. We have incredible talent that's as yet undiscovered from a global point of view, and globally people are loving African art. And on the other hand, it's to bring a finance perspective for the sake of clients. So there are many clients out there who are looking to invest their money in other places because the JSE is at a high, and people worry about a bubble. Our currency is taking strain. Our country rating is taking strain. So if we downgrade it, that's going to potentially cause issues as well with interest rates, inflation, etc. So they are looking at alternative investments in which to place their capital and also bring diversification to their portfolios.
Yeah, because I think that was one of my questions as well. The economy is quite uncertain.
Yes.
But where do you see art as an investment actually
playing in that
space? Yeah.
Well, art, so there are many alternative investments. So firstly, when you look at investing your capital, diversification is always the number one thing that people speak about. Now, like any other asset class, let's just start with the definition of an alternative asset. It's very simply speaking something that is not equities and bonds. So you get other alternative assets such as classic cars.
Someone's like banging in the back there.
Other alternative investments such as classic cars, wine, hedge funds, property is a very strong alternative investment asset class. So as in any other asset class, be it equities or bonds even, you've got to know that there are subtleties within every asset class. And you've got to make a decision in terms of how you want to invest and say, okay, what is my time horizon for investment? How much of my investment into art as an alternative asset class am I going to invest in developing artists who haven't yet got a following, but they're showing promise?
So probably a longer term investment.
Yes, yes. More risk, but also much lower pricing. How much am I going to invest in the emerging artists who have developed a following but haven't really been discovered yet? They're not on the international art market as yet, or they're just putting their toes in the water. How much am I going to invest in the established artists such as William Kentridge, Diane Victor, Norman Catherine, and how much in the masters? So from that point of view, looking at your time horizon, your objectives for returns, and what you're wanting to do from a a currency point of view. For instance, William Kentridge sells in dollars, whether it's in South Africa or abroad. Those are the things you need to look at to make your decisions.
Okay. But, to do that as well, some people feel that they don't have the knowledge.
That's right.
How do you enter that market? If you're not an art, like someone that actually studied art or actually know art, is that something that you guys can guide people with as well?
That is exactly what we do. So that is one of our key focus points. We work with people to understand what they're investing in. We advise them on what good investment choices are and why, and then we help them to research as well.
Okay.
And people that have never even looked at art, who just came into the gallery because they were bored and they were waiting for their daughter to finish shopping at one of the stores, they become very savvy in a very short space of time, and make some really good investments that they're already getting good returns on in the space of a year. So it's not as difficult. It's like wine. People make wine to be something that's very difficult, and if you don't know it, you feel silly.
Yeah.
But it's really, if you talk to somebody, it's what tastes good to you, and then looking at some of the fundamentals. Art is the same. There's some fundamentals. There are two main fundamentals. Firstly, the skill of the artist. Are they talented? And have they mastered the medium that they're working in? Secondly, you need to look at the materials, and that's something that's quite easy to learn with some advice. But the most important part when you're investing in an artist is to get to know that artist, know how they manage themselves. Because just like anything else, if they're not managing themselves well, they're not presenting their work well, they're not engaging with their investors, they're not going to go very far in the industry. They're going to just do as well as they can do based on their talent, but they're not going to take it to that next level.
Because you're kind of buying into a brand as well.
That's exactly it.
Yeah,
That's exactly it.
Yeah. So you talked about people popping into the gallery, opening the gallery in the Mall of Africa. How was that different to what you did before?
Good heavens, it's completely different. Coming from a corporate environment where, yes, you work crazy hours anyway. You never work the hours that your contract says you should. But in a corporate, you up and down, you're in meetings, you're moving, and you're in a big space with a lot of people. Whereas in a gallery, your retail hours are strict. If you're not there to open on time at 9 o'clock in the morning, you will get a fine.
Sure.
If you close before 8 o'clock at night, you will get a fine. And they're hefty fines. So you are confined in a space that's 100 square meters with one or two other people, and it's quite an adjustment to make, and it's 364 days a year.
Sure.
So it's hard to plan holidays or anything like that.
So it's quite a compromise as well
It is.
from a family life.
It is. Luckily, my husband's an entrepreneur as well, so
He understands.
he does, and he's very supportive.
So from your time at Nedbank, I mean, the experience, or let's talk about your finance background. I mean, you came
Yes.
from data and project management, etc. How did that help you in your new venture?
Well, it helps a lot because, as a business owner, small business owner, you really have to know everything about the business. Yes, you have an accountant, and I work with a lovely company who had just started their own business as well. So it's lovely to see them growing too. So they do my accounting, they do my VAT, they do my pay-as-you-earn. But you have to know exactly what's happening from a day to day. You have to focus on your cash flow. Otherwise, cash flow is king. if you don't have cash flow, that will kill your business very quickly. So, so having that finance background, I think, is really what helped me to be where I am and to be in a position where I am able to make it through the transition of becoming a small startup to a small business.
I think a lot of people for actually forget that the skills that you have to have is actually so important. So
Yes.
that you've got to do a lot of different things that you never did before. Even
That's
though
it.
someone else might do your VAT and your taxes, but you still need to know what's happening there.
Absolutely.
Okay, but we're going to continue just after this short break, Julie, and I think we've still got a lot of interesting questions to go through.
Lovely.
brandlive.co.za.
Have you ever thought about the power of social media? Social media has the power to make your business grow. Grow! Yeah! Why don't you let us manage your social media? Because our business is to see your business grow. Visit us at www.bstownmedia.co.za.
Making a bold statement yet blending into the surrounding suburbs of Melville, 27 Boxes is a realization of edgy design and practical implementation. A radical departure from the shopping malls of our generation, yet not a return to the high streets of our youth. 27 Boxes showcases the best of a shopping centre set in a garden, surrounded by the bohemian suburb that is Melville. 27 Boxes, shop, play, eat. You're listening to brandlive.co.za.
Okay, we're continuing our discussion with Julie Miller from Julie Miller Investment Art Institute. Julie, where did your love for art come from?
Again, I honestly can't tell you. I just, from a very young age, I've loved art, I've loved music, I've loved anything creative. So, no idea. I'm not able to do any of it myself.
Yeah.
But I think that's maybe why I have such a deep appreciation for people who can.
Yeah. Look, I'm an accountant by trade, and I'm quite also like a big art lover and a music lover, and it's sometimes very difficult in that industry to actually express yourself. And
Yes.
so you tend to go home and you'll hang your place with nice things and listen to nice music and stuff. So
Exactly.
people say if you love what you do, it's not work.
That's exactly right.
So not a lot of people are fortunate to do that. How do you identify the correct artists, and where do you find these people?
So what I typically do is, in the beginning, I followed artists on social media. The young artists are very, very good with social media. They're absolutely amazing. So they're out there. They're posting every day on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. So that's how I first got to know some artists, and the ones that I enjoyed their work, I approached them and asked to work with them. Since then, I've been introduced to other artists by those artists, and having the gallery, we're approached by a lot of artists. So there's a big body of artists out there, but for me, I look at those three things. So first of all, I look and see, are they talented? Do they have something that's interesting? Do they have something that's different? And do they have something that is unique? So when you look at a work of art, is it recognizable to that artist? That's a very important thing to look for. Then very important is looking at the quality of the materials. Now, a lot of the young artists don't understand quality materials when they start, especially self-taught artists. But they're very happy to learn, and you start working with them and support them with materials and that sort of thing. But the biggest thing for me is how they manage themselves, because it is a brand. It is a brand you're buying into. Why did Microsoft become such a wonderful success? Why did iPhone become such a wonderful success? Because of the way they manage the brand. and they delivered on their promises. So likewise, an artist needs to manage themselves as a brand. If we have an exhibition, I encourage the artists to wait until the very close to the end of the exhibition before having a glass of wine, because it dims your wits, and people are wanting to engage with you, and it's quite challenging when you have an exhibition. The focus is on you. So there are those sorts of things, and how they interact with the clients that invest in them. Are they grateful to them? Do they show their appreciation for the support and the trust in them as a brand? So those are the things that I look for. I get to know the artists very well, and artists do tend to collect into communities. So, for instance, in the city centre, they've two very strong artist communities that I work with a lot of the artists. There's August House and Bag Factory. So they tend to work together in communities, and you can, the more you spend time with them and with them in their communities, the better you get to know them, and you get to understand who is managing themselves well and who are delivering on their promises. If you offer somebody a solo exhibition, it's a lot of pressure on both of you. They've got to deliver the work for that solo, because it's expensive for you to host that. And on your side, you've got to make sure that you market it and that you bring the clients to come and purchase the works. So they need to deliver in time good quality work for those shows.
So if I understand it correctly, I mean, there's the investment side with the investors.
Yes.
But you probably do quite a lot of development with the artists as well.
Very much so. Very much so. So I find the artists that I believe have got what it takes to become a good investment, and I work with them and promote them and market them and teach them about business and about to handle things from a finance perspective.
One other thing that's always, because when I looked at the business, the Julie Miller Investment Art Institute. For me as well, running a business, I think ultimately we all probably think of you're going to sell it one of these, maybe and make a lot of money out of it. Do you think it's risky to attach your name to a business, your brand to a business?
It is.
Because you are the brand, ultimately.
Absolutely. And when I decided on the name to call this, I did a lot of research, and I did find that people, when they invest, serious investors, want a name. They want somebody who they can look in their eyes and say, you advised me to buy this. Can I trust you? So it was a conscious decision. It does put a lot of pressure, but at the same time, I do think it was the right decision.
Okay, you previously said that you follow social media with the artists, etc.
Yes.
Building your brand and your business, how do you use social media in that sense?
We use it tremendously. So everything. So we try and get a lot of information about the artists we're supporting out there. So we've got a mailing list that we've built up over time. We use the mailing lists. We post on Facebook. We post on Instagram. We post on Twitter. So we use all of those platforms, and that also brings other artists to us, approach us, that want to work with us.
So just very quickly, if you can give advice to anyone that's sitting in a position in a job that they actually think, I need to get out, I need to do something else, what advice can you give them?
Number one, cash flow. So be sure that you are able to support the business for 3 years, even if you don't make a single sale. It takes off that pressure. 1 year is not enough.
Yeah, agree. No, I fully agree. I think we see it as well, because the economy is of such that, especially if you're in, I don't know if you see yourself in a luxury brand as such, that's the first thing when people look into that.
Yeah.
The future for Julie, what's gonna?
Well, ultimately, again, I still have this thing in my head that I want to enable people to be able to invest directly in the art world. So the way I see that is to build a full-service art business that can be floated on the stock exchange one day. It's a long road, but that's where my mind is.
But that's, I mean, it's a good vision.
Yes.
Okay. Quickly, if you had to do it all over again, what would you do different?
What would I do different? I would buy less art in the beginning to make sure that I had more liquid cash flow. That's what I would do different.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much, Julie. It was very interesting, and I'm definitely going to look at art a bit different now. We probably can start small and just
right.
build up from there.
Absolutely. You can start with 200 Rand.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Stefan.
Thanks, Julie.
You have been listening to the My Work, My Life show on brandlife.co.za.
Proudly brought to you by Edge Executive Search.
Visit Edge Executive Search on
www.edgexec.co.za now
for more opportunities, events,
and our latest podcasts.